Hello, I'm Joshua Unruh, your superhero scholar. A while back, I recorded some short segments for another comic book podcast on the absolute bonkers nature of comics in the earliest days of superheroes. They're still available on that show, but I thought you, my loyal listeners, might like another crack at them. They're from earlier in my podcasting career, so please forgive any lack of quality, audio or otherwise. Without further delay, welcome to my very irregularly updated new segment, What the F***, Golden Age? Hello, and welcome to another What the F***, Golden Age. I'm your host, Joshua Unruh. Returning listeners will recall that I'm doing a series based on the various mystery men from the Golden Age of comics and radio. If you need to blame somebody for this, it's the fault of the Dynamite Comics Limited series, Masks. But I'm excited, because today we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite masked duos, the Green Hornet and Kato. To regroup, Masks stars some of the most famous mystery men to ever grace pages and airwaves. The Green Hornet and Kato are examples of the latter, having their origins in radio and only making the move to comics later. This dynamite duo were created by George W. Trendle and Fran Stryker with a little help from their radio director, James Jewell. The characters made their debut on January 31st, 1939, but have since appeared in several film serials, countless comics, novels, a television series, but sadly no movies. Seriously, no matter what you're told, there are no Green Hornet movies. Anyone who says otherwise is a lying liar and needs to shut their lie hole or get it shut for them. You don't need those kinds of negative people in your life. They're garbage. They're a dumpster fire. They're straight up GOP 2016. Moving on. Green Hornet is usually Britt Reed, wealthy publisher of the Daily Sentinel who fights crime and corruption by donning a green fedora, overcoat, and one of the most baller masks in the history of the world. Britt is aided by his faithful valet, Kato. Much of this aid comes from building and driving the Black Beauty, their crime-fighting supercar, but in addition, Kato generally kicks all the ass that needs kicking. But don't cry for the Green Hornet, Argentina. Not only did he get a better name and mask, but he also has a pretty sweet gas gun, and later, an electric beam weapon called the Stinger. I mean, Kato built both of those too, but the Hornet got to shoot them. Look, Britt's important, okay? He had a lot of money, and he was white. Both of which, you may recall, are typical for mystery men because they were invented in America in the 30s, and back then an unfortunate amount of your societal value was wrapped up in your net worth and overall whiteness. Back then. Right. So, what other duo does this sound like? I'll give you some hints. Masked white guy travels around fighting injustice with the assistance of an ethnic sidekick, who is more competent than the hero, and all while riding something with a famous horse name. Ring any bells? From a thrilling tale of yesteryear, maybe? If you said the Lone Ranger and Tonto, then you're correct. The two duos are extremely similar to one another, and the resemblance is no accident. The Lone Ranger and Tonto were also created by Fran Stryker. And that's not all the Ranger and the Hornet share. While the Ranger's name is never given in the original radio show, his older brother, whose death inspired a war on outlaws, did get named, Daniel Reed. And later, that man's son, the Ranger's nephew, Dan Reed Jr., joined the masked man and his faithful Native American companion on the trail. The same Dan Reed also appeared on the Green Hornet as Britt's father. The Lone Ranger is the Green Hornet's great uncle, y'all. How great is that? One major difference between the two duos, however, is that nearly everyone believes the Green Hornet and Kato are criminals. They fight organized crime by appearing to take it over. This is a stark departure from the Lone Ranger, whose reputation for goodness was well known by fans both in and out of the fiction. At any rate, this is the version of the Green Hornet that appears in Masks. I say this version because the arguably most famous version of the Green Hornet is not the one from the radio shows and film serials, but instead the one from television. Based on the success of their 1966 Batman television series, Greenway Productions also adapted the Green Hornet. Unlike the campy, hyper-stylized Batman, though, the Hornet played its adventures straight. There are some great things to remember about this show despite its cancellation after only one season. The theme song is amazing, the car is beautiful, it crossed over with Batman, and Van Williams does a fine turn as Britt Reed and the Hornet. But the best thing about this show by far is Kato. I know what you're thinking. How can Kato be the best part of a show about Green Hornet? I mean, a necessary and worthwhile part, sure, but the best? How can this be? This Kato is also Bruce Lee. I told you Kato got to kick all the that needed kicking, and now you know why. Lee's popularity even had the show renamed The Kato Show in his native Hong Kong. But as amazing as Bruce Lee is as Kato, he's also the accidental source of the one sour note in my favorite use of the duo. In 1989, Now Comics published a Green Hornet series that I absolutely fell in love with. Its zero issue told a tale set in 1945 depicting Britt Reed's final case as the Hornet. A prose piece followed that managed to connect him to the Lone Ranger without actually naming the character due to licensing issues, as well as the Green Hornet of the 60s, now declared to be Britt Reed Jr. The Kato that rode with the second Hornet was the son of the man who rode with the original, thus making crime fighting an intergenerational family affair. The proper first issue of the series had Paul Reed as the Hornet, with Mishi Kato following in her father and grandfather's footsteps by carrying the fight against crime into the 1990s. I believe that this was my first personal introduction to the concept of a legacy hero, and for those that know my tastes, that's an impression that stuck hard. Unfortunately, due to the female Kato, the Douche Canoe license holders withdrew their support from the book until the Bruce Lee Kato returned. Obviously, a powerful female crime fighter more committed to the battle than the book's actual namesake was too much awesome for their tiny minds to contain. What the actual 1990? We would, however, get the chance to ask Mishi about her feminist agenda when she returned as the Crimson Wasp, still kicking all that that's fit to kick. Suck it, dude bros. There have been other Green Hornet comics from Dynamite in recent years, but they're written by Kevin Smith and therefore get a lot of side-eye from me. They might be good though. Who knows? I never will. And that will bring us to the end of this episode of WTFGA. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Green Hornet and Kato and are anxious to hear about the other mystery men who appeared in Dynamite's masks. If you'd like to read the series, there will be a link in the show notes to Comixology. If you want to read that run of comics from the 90s, though, you'll have to come to my house. Please call first. In the meantime, look for me on Twitter, @Joshua Unruh. You can ask me any questions, talk about how great legacy heroes are, or tell me what you think of masks as you read it. Hashtag it WTFGA so everyone can play. Until next time, I'm Joshua Unruh, encouraging you to wonder, what the Golden Age? WTF Golden Age is a Pulp Diction Productions program and is 100% supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can keep this and our other shows in production, check out patreon.com/pulpdictionproductions. And if you can't support us financially, please leave the show a rating and review on iTunes. It's the best way to help others discover the show and join the conversation. Keep up with everything we're doing at www.pulpdiction.biz or find us at www.facebook.com/pulpdictionproductions.